from the wrestling capital of the world, Calgary, Dramatic Falls, Alberta, Canada, and broadcast to the world at www.stormwrestling.com and www.liveaudiowrestling.com. This is Storm Warning, your weekly audio check-in with World Championship Wrestling superstar, Lance Storm.
Lance Storm, Happy New Year. How you doing this week?
I'm doing good. Happy New Year to you.
What did you do for New Year's?
Absolutely nothing.
In character, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Put my kids to bed, watched Enemy of the State, and went to bed.
Is that a good movie?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Did you get a chance to watch? I mean, obviously with all this time off, you had a chance to go to movies, watch movies, read any books.
I went and saw What Women Want with Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt this afternoon, actually.
Is that funny?
It is. It's actually quite funny.
Good date movie?
I would say so. Yeah, it's you know a chick flick that is yet funny and enjoyable for guys too.
You're a Mel fan to begin with, though, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm a Helen Hunt mark too, so it.
Really?
Well, and Alan Alda was in it too. I didn't realize that.
Helen Hunt?
Yes.
Ugh.
I don't know. I think it was like Mad About You came on right about the same time as I got married.
Okay.
So it was sort of really interesting and found a lot of parallels between that and my life, sort of starting off getting married. So I really enjoyed the show.
Mm-hmm.
I like Paul Reiser, and I don't know, I'm just a mark for Helen Hunt for some reason.
Oh, there you go. Is there anything else exciting at the Storm household over the holidays?
Not overly, really.
Buy a lot of new goodies?
A few things. I got a new TV for my living room, a couple DVDs, and that's about it, really.
Nice. Your Bulldog Bob Brown commentary has certainly got a lot of response this week up on Storm Wrestling. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship, what it was like with Bob Brown?
Oh, it was an experience, because he was the first booker that Jericho and I really worked for. He booked both in Calgary and Winnipeg, so it's basically where we did all our work. And it's funny, there's a few local workers in town that I've broken in with that I didn't realize were readers of my commentaries and so forth, and I'm getting a lot of feedback from them about the commentary and about Bulldog, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, what kind of response has it been? Has it been all favorable? Has it been anything negative? I mean, the guy is dead, and,
So far, all favorable. I was a little concerned about that at the first, because, talking about someone when they've passed and not necessarily always being all that favorable when you talk about.
Sure.
But everyone I've talked to has been really positive. They, remember him, laugh and joke and tell their own stories, and I think it worked out for the best. Everyone's just sort of remembering what he was like and his time here, so I think it's turned out for the best.
We're going to have the Bulldog Bob Brown wrap up on the website within a couple of days. Right now it's Friday, like 7:30, 8 o'clock. We should have it up by Saturday afternoon, I would imagine. In sort of researching what we were going to talk about and trying to get in touch with the guy who did the Bulldog rap, heard some interesting stories about you stealing his finish for a match once upon a time. Remember that one?
Yeah, we were working in Brandon, Manitoba. Jericho was wrestling, I think, Stan Saxton, and he was trying to set up for some kind of move off the turnbuckle. It was getting screwed up and not going well, and Jericho ended up DDTing him off of the corner instead. And I remember Callis at the time was using a DDT as his finish, and he got all hot and went and complained to Bob, why is this guy using my finish? And Bob, piped up saying, don't worry about it. After all, that Lance Storm stole my finish. And Callis sort of looked at him and was like, Bob, what is your finish? And he's like, the big leg dive off the top rope.
60-year-old man?
I was using the leg drop off the top. And Callis just sitting there looking at Bob going, okay. It's like, you've never even been up there. What the hell are you talking about? And I'm assuming Bob at some point in time thought a leg drop was his finish. Maybe he thought he was, Hulk Hogan or something. So the fact that I was doing it off the top was equivalent to Jericho doing the DDT off the top, and basically just Bob's way of getting out of having to explain why Jericho just used Callis' finish.
You must have had some requests to do a follow-up to the Bob Brown commentary, because it really is good.
Yeah, I've had a few, actually. Jason Anderson, a local worker here in town, did a Neidhart rip-off gimmick. I think they were claiming him to be the brother or something in town. I ran into him at the gym, and he was, laughing huge. He said that his wife didn't know why he was laughing so hard, sitting at his computer the other night, and he was reading my commentary. And, we started telling sort of all our own different Bob Brown stories. He's like, you've got to follow this up with more road stories. It's just too funny.
There's got to be a fine line, though. I mean, how much can you really, go public with?
Yeah, you have to watch because, there's a lot of people involved in the stories and so forth. And also, too, like, doing a follow-up in text commentary is tough because most of the stories are best if you do them in a Bob Brown voice because he talked sort of rather uniquely
He was pretty unique vocal stylings.
Yes, exactly. It's like Stu Hart. You can't do him in text. You have to do him verbally.
It's true. Although, again though, if you have like a Stu Hart mindset and you're reading something and you're reading someone doing an impression of him, it almost comes to life.
Yeah.
Like their personalities are that vibrant, and Rob Brown's one of them.
Yeah, just a reminder of Stu's story. The first time I worked in Europe with Otto Vons, I wrestled a guy by the name of Klaus Karoff. He was a German guy over there. Never met him before in my life. I'm out there wrestling him. Get into the ring. Just as we go to tie up, he breaks into a Stu Hart impression.
Really?
I just about died right there in the middle of the ring. It's like, man, Stu is universal.
It's a universal wrestling language.
It is. Actually, and Tony Condello, the promoter in Winnipeg, actually tries to imitate Stu, but he does it so badly no one realizes he's imitating Stu, and now it's just the way Tony talks.
Really?
And everybody will imitate him, thinking that that's the way Tony talks, but it's just Tony trying to be Stu.
Unbelievable.
It's hilarious.
I don't know that anyone can. I don't know that it's possible to do a bad Stu Hart. Iron Sheik can do a Stu Hart impression, for crying out loud.
Well, Tony Condello can screw it up. So Stu's actually adopted his own language now that's being screwed up and mutilated all over the world.
There's kayfabe and Stu-fabe.
Yes, exactly.
Moving to WCW, how did you feel about the handling of the Mark Madden situation that fired for making comments about Scott Hall and talking about the potential sale of the company? How did you feel about that?
I try not to pass judgment until I actually talk to someone who's involved in it.
Right.
Reading it on the net, you don't know what's going on. I phoned Mark earlier in the week. He phoned me back. We've been playing phone tag. If they did fire him for that, it seems kind of odd with the 30-day clauses and contracts and stuff. It's like, why do people even give reasons for firing people? Why don't they just not renew people?
Right.
It seems odd. I think there was even an article in the Torch sort of saying that. It's like, the most contracts that we sign are relatively lopsided. If you need to dismiss somebody, why bother, trying to come up with just cause and firing people? Why don't you just not renew them? I would assume he's probably within 60 days of his thing being up, so it wouldn't be a huge strain on the company to just wait 60 days before doing it.
You expect him back?
It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing surprises me anymore. If he's not, I'm curious who they're going to replace him with, because we need a color commentator on the show, and there's not an abundance of them out there. First
name that popped into my head is Don Callis.
Yeah, if Mark's not bad, Callis would be good. I don't know where his contract lies with ECW, but if ECW ceases to exist after Sunday, perhaps he would be a good choice.
Actually, Don's going to be wrestling again for the first time in a while.
That's what I heard. That's not cast in stone yet.
Right.
But yeah, he's going to be having yet another match.
But he certainly is, probably the best not play-by-play, but color commentator out there. Out of all the guys, I mean, as far as doing what a color commentator should do, I don't see anyone really better than Don Callis out there.
No, I think probably Jerry Lawler is more entertaining, but I don't think he necessarily does as much for the product as Callis can. It is
good for that product, exactly, and it's a compliment to the action, but it doesn't really achieve anything. Like, what Lawler does is entertaining, but at the end of the day, nothing really gets done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he accomplishes a whole lot to the product, but I think he does keep people entertained during the show, which is important. But I think Callis can do both. I think Mark was entertaining. I don't know if Mark necessarily got over the product as good as he could have, but I suppose maybe he's figuring that that's the actual play-by-play guy's job. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see whether he comes back or someone new comes in. I've heard Conan's name thrown around.
Yeah, how do you think that would fit?
I think it would be entertaining, but only to the smart bunch of fans that are watching, and I think before too long, Standards and Practices would have a heart attack and turn his microphone off.
It's always a really funky situation, too, when you get one of the wrestlers doing play-by-play. Politically so dangerous, and it's interesting you bring up the Conan example. I remember for so long, when Conan was injured, he did the play-by-play, and he would just rip on Chronic, week in, week out, like really stiff stuff. I remember thinking to myself, you know what? Like there's a point past which you can't go, and once he has to get back in the ring with Chronic one day, they're gonna hurt him.
Yeah, I don't know if they would go that far, but yeah, a lot of what Conan does is entertaining, but it's basically just shooting on the boys, which is entertaining to us and entertaining to a small portion of the crowd, but I don't think it's accomplishing the best for the product, which I think is what WCW really has to concentrate on, and is, A, having an entertaining show, and B, trying to establish and get over all the angles and the storylines and the people more so than just, entertaining the boys.
Right. Do you like doing color commentary, that is?
I've done it once or twice, although I've always been more of a play-by-play guy than a color commentating guy because I'm obviously more based in fact than I am in entertainment. There's a couple shows that I actually did some commentary for. A couple matches here in town on a local show, and one just out of town I did it on. And actually the one that I did out of town was, years ago, maybe 93. And it was actually incredibly entertaining because I wasn't too happy with the guy that I was working for, and I basically just shot on the boys the entire time.
Oh, jeez.
And it was really stiff. And the promoter guy that I was working for actually wrestled in the main event, and I just totally buried him. It was fun.
Do you have favorite stick guys to work for? Like to stand beside you, cut promos next to you? I mean, I'm going with Mean Gene somewhere down the road here.
I don't know about interviews and stuff. 'Cause I haven't really done that many of them with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I was always a big mark for Jim Ross as a play-by-play guy, and when he called a few of my matches in Smoky Mountain, that was pretty cool. I thought he was and is probably one of the best at getting the product over, getting the storylines over.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool when I had the chance to work with him.
Mm-hmm. No, he's probably the best in the business right now.
Yeah, I think he has been for a while. He has that ability to get excited about the stuff that's supposed to be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
That was always one of my criticisms about a lot of people, who don't have fire in a match or something, or don't look like they care all that much. It's like, if the announcers, or even guys that, downplay, their heels, will do something, they try to downplay it and no-sell it. It's like, if you don't care what they did, why are the fans?
Yep.
And Jim Ross was phenomenal at that. If, if a pile of guys hit the ring or if someone got hurt, he would be, sounding like it was, the most important thing ever in his life. And if you feel it, he thinks it's important, then, by design, then you do as well. So that's what you really need, is someone that can sell the product and sell what's going on.
A lot of times, though, it is a tricky line, because if the boys in the ring don't care, then the announcer, by doing his job and getting hyped about something, trying to get people emotionally involved in it, will look like an idiot.
Well, yeah, it's like everything in wrestling. It is a team effort, right down to the referee and the announcers and managers, everything. It's it's a big group effort, and I think we need to, WCW in particular, as well as everything else out there, needs to have all elements covered and make, people believe and get emotionally attached with what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, what's on the horizon for you? Do you have any idea? I mean, obviously you must be happy now that you're with Mike Awesome in the mix.
Yeah, I guess we're going to the Filthy Animals at Sin.
Mm-hmm.
Which should be a lot of fun because there's a lot of good people to work with in there.
Yeah.
And we've got the girls to try to work something in with them as well. So it should be an entertaining match, provided they give us enough time. If we end up getting a 9-minute segment on the pay-per-view, it's like, well, we've got 8 people out here.
It's a lot of entrances and.
Yeah, when you get the entrances in, and then it's like, okay, well, if we want to work the girls in, that'll be a couple minutes, and it's like, well, everybody get one spot each, and we'll be out of here.
And then hit the showers.
Yeah, no kidding.
But you can really stretch out. I mean, you mentioned the amount of talent that's in, the Team Canada and the Filthy Animals. You can do like 6 months worth of quality matches.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can do. A lot of good single matches, tag matches, 6-mans. You can pull in the girls and make it an 8-person. There's a lot of ways you can keep the matches fresh and different.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need something a little bit more heated for people to care or get behind than vandalizing a bus.
Yep.
I find that a lot of times now, especially in wrestling, like Jericho did the angle with Kane where he spilled coffee on him or something.
Yeah.
It's, they keep trying to tell stories and so forth, which is important, but I think a lot of people forget that you can tell a story in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I had the match with Ray for that qualifying for the Sin main event match.
Mm-hmm.
I wrestled Ray and beat him. Conan wrestled Elix and Conan beat him. It's like, couldn't we have, via the fact that we've had wrestling matches, told a wrestling story?
Mm-hmm.
And told the story from there, And I just find sometimes people get carried away with, trying to tell a story and not realizing that you can have stories in wrestling that just involve wrestling.
Yeah, I know. It's the soap opera mentality, or cheesy acting mentality too, that says, you know what, we have to shoot some kind of like crazy angle because there has to be a reason why those two guys are in the ring.
Yeah,
well, if you have a strong world title, there's a reason why everyone should be in the ring, because they're working their way up to getting that title.
Exactly. There's a reason. It's like, well, we're both professional wrestlers. We have to have matches for a living, and if we win, we move up. If we lose, we move down. It's like, you don't necessarily have to spill coffee on someone to have a match.
Yeah, it's like, well, why are you doing it in a ring? If you're just hot, just fight right there.
Mm-hmm. You know, have one of us in a match just because we have to have matches, and then have other people get involved and turn it into an angle as you start wrestling, instead of looking for a reason to have an angle before you've even had a match.
Wrestling's pretty simple, eh?
I'd like to think so, but very few people remember that. Not rocket science. If it was, very few of us could do it.
I heard a story. I can't remember. Was it you that told me or someone else that somehow Mario Lemieux of the Pittsburgh Penguins knows who you are?
That was Mark Madden who told me. I probably told you. He made a big, I guess Madden on his radio show made a comment that, you know, Mario came back because he was inspired by fellow countryman Lance Storm. And either Mario was on that show or he spoke to him later and mentioned it. And Mario was like, yeah, that's the crew cut guy, right?
Yeah.
So he may not know me that well, but he at least knew who I was. And actually, I got a few comments on my comment board about it.
Uh-huh.
You know, what do you feel about him coming back? It's like, well, he's coming back. He's doing great. He's good for hockey. And, oh, yeah, by the way, isn't he Canadian?
Of course.
Exactly. And then there's even the debate going on my comment board now whether Wolverine was Canadian or not.
He was from Alberta, wasn't he?
Well, in the movie, he was in northern Alberta, but I don't know how true to the comic that was. One guy has said that he has Canadian citizenship, but they've never actually determined whether he's actually Canadian.
Because I read X-Men when I was a kid, and I was always under the impression Wolverine was from Alberta.
Yeah, see, I read X-Men, like, very briefly. Like, you know, probably for the less than 6 months of my life was into comic books, and I read X-Men, but I have very little recollection of it. Now that it's taking on a life of its own on my comment board, I might have to start brushing up.
Yep, it's a new Mountain Dew.
There you go.
There you go. He had Mountain Dew, now you got Wolverine.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot, Lance. We'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.
Take it easy, Jeff.
Fans, if you have questions for Lance Storm, you can email him at lance@stormwrestling.com. Any rebroadcast or retransmission of this program without the expressed written consent of Lance Storm and live audio wrestling is strictly prohibited.